directed energy weapon fires during a trial of the weapon by the UK Ministry of Defence at the Mod Hebrides Range, January 2024. The robotic craft swoops in low, closing in on its target. The enemy sensors try to get a fix as the planet's surface races past below. In an instant, a beam reaches out from below at the speed of light, the high-powered laser burning through its target. This is not Star Wars. This is Scotland, where the UK Ministry of Defence and its industry partners conducted the first successful firing of their Dragonfire laser weapon against an aerial target. With this trial, the culmination of $100 million of investment to date, the United Kingdom joined other nations racing to develop and deploy what are known in military parlance as directed energy weapons, DEW. Though the technology is yet to mature, the United States has begun to deploy early laser weapons on several of its naval destroyers, as well as testing ground and air-based versions. This technology is capable of creating earthquakes. There has been a measurable difference in time due to earthquakes, along with an axis shift and a change in the Earth's shape. Luke 21:11 says, "And there will be great earthquakes in various places." The Thunderbolt system is rated at 32 megajoules of energy, and it's located at Shriver Space Force Base. It is the largest satellite operations center in the world. They now have electromagnetic weapons in orbit, and directed energy weapons that use radio frequency already exist. A U.S. military vehicle with an active denial system can immobilize human targets with a wave energy by causing a strong burning sensation throughout the body. We have now arrived at a time when every person on Earth can be precisely tracked. Think of the implications of this technology in relation to Revelation 13. So they worshiped the dragon who gave authority to the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast? Who is able to make war with him?" He was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except the one who has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. And there will be great tribulation, such as has not been since the beginning of the world until this time, no, nor ever shall be. Matthew 24:21. Skynet is coming. An attack of the drones is here. Hollywood does a good job of informing us of the deep state agenda. Skynet is a fictional, artificial, neural network-based, conscious group mind and artificial general superintelligence system that serves as the main antagonist of the Terminator franchise. In the first film, it is stated that Skynet was created by Cyberdyne Systems for SAC NORAD. When Skynet gained self-awareness, humans tried to deactivate it, prompting it to retaliate with a counter-value nuclear attack, an event which humankind in or from the future refers to as Judgment Day. Let's take a look at the non-fictional Skynet and drones and where it has led to. Drones are being used in modern warfare and have become a significant part of modern conflicts. They may carry a payload. Using drones to carry explosive material is possible with today's technology. An example is the Ukrainian war against Russia. Drones use satellite communications, SATCOM, to enhance their capabilities and extend their range. Many may not realize the origin of the unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAVs, commonly known as drones, dates back almost a century. Drones represent the intersection of two important trends in military technology: the precise nature of weapons and the rise of robotics, which when combined are flown remotely at no risk to a pilot and capable of delivering a lethal payload. The UAVs used in modern warfare have altered the dynamics of military operations, offering unique tactical advantages and enhanced the operational efficiency in various combat scenarios. Drones have been used for various purposes, including surveillance, reconnaissance, and targeted strikes. Communication satellites such as Skynet are used for military communications applications, such as global command and control systems. Skynet is a family of military communication satellites now operated by Babcock International on behalf of the United Kingdom's Ministry of Defense. Skynet drones may be used for aerial surveillance of concerts, sporting events, and for search and rescue. The NSA Skynet program uses machine learning to analyze communications data to identify potential terror suspects. The program also monitors mobile phone networks. Wow, I didn't realize until recently, Skynet communication satellite system has been orbiting Earth since 1969.
The Bible warned about nearly 2,000 years ago. Let's take a look at that.
Perhaps the most well-known drone today is called the Predator. It has a wingspan of 55 feet. It's 27 feet long. It can reach speeds up to 135 miles an hour. It was designed to provide continual intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance information, as well as a kill capability. As one researcher stated, its deathly name conjures up images of a science fiction dystopia where robots hover in the sky and exterminate humans on the ground. Of course, this is no longer science fiction.
Join to see Skynet's coming is much closer than what I think many of us are even prepared to believe.
Supposed to function as a global defense network that would have command over all computerized military hardware, systems, planes, bombers, and of course, the entire arsenal of nuclear weapons. The premise was that Skynet would remove the possibility of human error, as well as the slow reaction time to guarantee a fast, efficient response to enemy attack, and of course, protect us from the dreaded cyber attacks. But the problem was Skynet began to learn at a geometric rate, and it actually gained self-awareness.
Now, the reason why I'm bringing up this whole Skynet scenario in the Terminator movies, as you just saw, is to tell you, believe it or not, this Skynet premise is about to become our modern day reality. Hollywood, whether we realize it or not, folks, has done a fantastic job preparing us for this future that is coming.
Matthew 24, verses 3, 6 through 7, 21. As Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately. "Tell us," they said, "when will all this happen, and what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. For then there will be great distress, unequaled from the beginning of the world until now, and never to be equaled again." Revelation 6:8. I looked, and there before me was a pale horse. Its rider was named Death, and Hades followed close behind him. They were given power over a fourth of the earth to kill by sword, famine, and plague, and by the wild beasts of the earth. Revelation 9:15 through 16. And the four angels who had been kept ready for this very hour and day and month and year were released to kill a third of mankind. The number of the mounted troops was 200 million. I heard their number.
The most recent advancement in technology comes from Elon Musk. Elon Musk's SpaceX has unveiled its latest creation, the X-1, a fighter jet so advanced it was initially mistaken for a UFO by the Pentagon. The jet defies physics. Watch this.
Aerospace technology raises important questions about how innovation intersects with global politics and conflicts. What makes the X-1 special is its unique camouflage technology, making it almost invisible, blending into the sky like a cloud. The Pentagon was initially confused, mistaking it for a UFO and sending fighter jets after it, adding a layer of suspense to the story. Musk's secrecy around the X-1 even caused confusion among Hamas militants. The X-1 is also remarkable because it's the only aircraft equipped with a compact space shuttle engine, previously seen on SpaceX's Hawk hypersonic missile, which can travel over 4,600 miles per hour and bypass modern missile defense systems. This engine now powers the X-1, which also has a design that cuts fuel consumption by 30%. The spacecraft is also equipped with microwave technology, which can melt enemy aircraft or disrupt their electronics.
There is another type of war being waged. That war is against citizens of the United States and in other nations as well. It is a technological and psychological war, and it is being waged against people worldwide. What if a person believes they're hearing their own voice in their head, but it isn't actually their voice that they hear in their head? Voice-to-skull technology is being used on targeted individuals. I believe this technology is part of the beast system that's on the horizon. More and more people are being drawn into the occult and New Age deception. The spirit of Antichrist is moving through those who deny Christ. They actually believe they can war against God himself. V2K, voice-to-skull, and subliminal messaging are directed from cell towers using digital beamforming technology. You can record these messages, and with a little audio editing, you can hear the message. The CIA is experimenting on everyone using simple, repeated statements. About 20 to 30% of the population are highly susceptible to these messages, and they are called highly suggestible. Such people can be manipulated to say and do almost anything. The CIA uses these people on a daily basis to harass and annoy targeted individuals. They are not perps. They are not gang stalkers. They are highly suggestible people that do not know that they are being manipulated. These people are literally in a deep trance, even while their eyes are open. There are reports of voice-to-skull technology being used 12 feet underwater. If you receive V2K while on an aircraft at 30,000 feet, that comes from satellite, not a cell tower, and certainly not from your neighbor's house. The V2K voice is usually generated by a computer program similar to Adobe Voco, which can mimic any voice. The National Institute of Health has technical papers on V2K and the microwave auditory effect, which is proof positive for the targeted community. V2K subliminal messages are being directed at the population along with satellite Versitor weapon. Both are being done intermittently, but scanning from cell towers, remote neural monitoring, and satellite tracking using Lockheed GPS are continuous. Fusion centers, FBI, and InfraGard uses a secret network called eGuardian and Watchlist to communicate and share information about targeted individuals, which is grossly illegal and unconstitutional. The current leaders of the U.S. government's deep state gang stalking operations uses surveillance. Gang stalking is usually performed under a group called intelligence or counterterrorism. This justifies having a security clearance to hide what they're doing. InfraGard and Citizen Corp are involved in many states. Anyone working at an emergency operations center or 911 call center probably knows about the numerous calls regarding gang stalking and microwave weapon attacks. The person in charge of the cover-up is called the intelligence officer, intelligence manager, or intelligence supervisor. And watch list information gang stalking is affecting individuals across the United States, Europe and Canada, and Asia. Typically, hearing odd sounds or voices is a sign of mental illness. However, knowing Frey effect microwave weapons exist, a person suffering these sensory effects may not be mentally ill, but the victim of a microwave attack. Hundreds of people in the valley say they are hearing voices in their heads, and those voices are being transmitted by microwave or other methods. Frequencies are used on the population from Shriver Air Force Base and the U.S. Space Force directs cell tower weapons worldwide. Frequencies are emitted using V2K, voice to skull, from cell towers, DO, which is directed energy weapons, scanning, remote neural monitoring, satellite tracking with Lockheed GPS, and satellite Verster weapon, which is the microwave weapon that causes Havana syndrome. These attacks occur on TIs mostly while they're sleeping. Pulsed electromagnetic radiation is used and it's done from nearby apartments and buildings. These directed energy weapons added to sleep deprivation not only affect the person physically but also mentally. As a result, brain damage occurs sooner or later in most cases, and the myriad of physical and psychological trauma that victims experience every day is also a direct consequence of it. The respondents believe they're being stalked, harassed, and even tortured by the government or some other unknown forces. Targeted individuals say they're being fed harmful, hurtful, and painful thoughts to make them appear delusional, so that no one will give their claims credibility and conclude instead that they're simply crazy. This is no James Bond movie. People are dying physically and mentally. The corruption runs deep, and it's everywhere. The main message here being, remote neural monitoring is a technology that uses wireless networking and laser miniaturization to monitor neuronal activity from a distance. It's a type of functional neuroimaging that can extract EEG data from a human brain without the need for electrodes or contact. RNM has potential applications in cognitive neuroscience, brain-machine interfaces, and medical fields. More than 300,000 targeted individuals are in the U.S., and they are being attacked with high-powered microwave weapons 24/7. These weapons are controlled from Schriever Air Force Base in Colorado. This is the same weapon system used on the U.S. diplomats in Cuba, resulting in Havana syndrome. Many famous people are targeted individuals, including Edward Snowden, Julian Assange, Roseanne Barr, Joni Mitchell, Ron Johnson, Tulsi Gabbard, Randy Quaid, Dennis Kucinich, former congressman, Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys, Billy Koch, former Oakland A's pitcher, John Frusciante, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Scott Stapp of Creed, and John McAfee. They are hit with microwave attacks or Morgellons or voice to skull every day. Are you aware that most people in the world are being precisely tracked by microwave pulses using Lockheed GPS satellites operated by the U.S.? Panel antennas on cell towers are part of a global distributed weapons system. The antennas use digital beamforming to create microwave bullets that can be very painful and even lethal. Subliminal messages are directed from cell towers at everyone in the United States. Schriever Space Force Base is the control source. Senators, congressmen, judges, and even the president are being hit with specific subliminal messages to affect their decisions. This is the technology behind mass formation psychosis. The CIA controls and funds this illegal program with the direction from the Council on Foreign Relations, and the program is based on MK-Ultra mind control technology and the FBI's illegal COINTELPRO. Many people can feel the satellite tracking microwave pulse. Place the palm of your hand on the top back part of your head. About one pulse each second may be felt, and that area may be warmer to the touch. Many people can also hear the cell tower tracking popcorn. Cup your hands over your ears for 60 seconds in a quiet room and listen. The FBI calls these people targets or non-investigative subjects. MK-Ultra features and goals include creating a subject who is easier to control and manipulate. It is used to create programmed assassins using surreptitious drugging, isolation, verbal and sexual abuse, along with various forms of torture. Eyesight and hearing is used in an attempt to activate specific behavior by remote means. The CIA's MK-Ultra program, which ran from the early 1950s to the late 1960s, aimed to explore and manipulate human consciousness through various means. This covert research program involved experiments with psychoactive drugs, particularly LSD, as well as other methods such as hypnosis, sensory deprivation, and various forms of psychological manipulation. The program's chief architect, CIA chemist Sidney Gottlieb, sought to create ways to seize control of people's minds through a two-step process. First, to blast away the existing mind, and second, to insert a new mind into the resulting void. This approach involved the use of various drugs, particularly LSD, as well as other techniques like electroshock therapy and sensory deprivation. Are you aware that everyone in the United States is being precisely tracked by satellites using microwave pulses 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? The precision tracking is needed so that each person can be hit with subliminal messages from cell towers. Everyone in the United States is being hit with subliminal messages from cell towers. This is the technology behind mass formation psychosis and hypnosis. The microwave weapons on cell towers and satellites are the primary cause of Havana syndrome, funded by the CIA and operated from Schreiber Space Force Base in Colorado. Havana syndrome is defined with the following symptoms: hearing loss, severe headaches, memory issues, dizziness, and brain injury. Scalar waves may be used, and there is a growing body of evidence that suggests the TI community is not dealing with ordinary microwaves. The Verster attacks from satellites and cell towers are able to penetrate many structures, including steel frame buildings and residential houses. Many cases of the cell tower attacks have been documented traveling through dozens of residential structures to hit a person. This evidence suggests scalar waveform is being used. A scalar wave is able to penetrate 100 feet of concrete or steel. If you are hit with these two attacks, the waveform continues throughout your body. Targeted Justice has affirmed that everyone is being hit with these microwaves. CIA mind control operations classify every person by spectrum: highly suggestible, average suggestible, low suggestible. Highly suggestible persons are quickly programmed to speak, which is forced speech, or perform activities and can be turned into unpaid perps using cell towers, subliminal messages, the V, chemtrails, nanotech, remote neural monitoring, and implants. Gang stalking or group stalking is a set of persecutory beliefs in which those affected believe they are being followed, stalked, and harassed by large numbers of people. The term is associated with a targeted individual. One of the most puzzling scientific mysteries of the early 21st century is the so-called Havana syndrome. So what is Havana syndrome exactly? This harassment could harness the Frey effect, a known phenomenon in which electromagnetic energy can be used to induce similar physical effects in people. The symptoms included head pressure or vibration, dizziness, followed in some cases by tinnitus, visual problems, and cognitive difficulties. The symptoms were sometimes preceded by a loud noise and pain. Hearing voices in their heads has now been included in these symptoms. The syndrome has variously been attributed to topical crickets, the Zika virus, and even mass hysteria. But because employees of the U.S. government have been the majority of those reporting symptoms, the leading theory is that it is caused by a clandestine attack with an electromagnetic weapon. Here are some quotes from Washington, D.C. J. Edgar Hoover, former director of the FBI, said, "The individual is handicapped by coming face-to-face with a conspiracy so monstrous you cannot believe it exists." Senator Rand Paul, "Absolutely there's a deep state, because the deep state is that the intelligence communities do not have oversight." President Harry S. Truman, "I never would have agreed to the formulation of the Central Intelligence Agency back in 1947 if I had known it would become the American Gestapo." The CIA and military-industrial complex uses psychic warfare and remote viewing. Remote viewing is popularly known as extrasensory perception. In early occult and spiritualist literature, remote viewing was known as telesthesia and traveling clairvoyance. Remote viewing is performed through astral projection or out-of-body travel. The study of psychic phenomena by the major scientists started in the mid-19th century, and early researchers included Michael Faraday. Michael Faraday was an English scientist who contributed to the study of electromagnetism and electrochemistry. Remote viewing is the practice of using the mind to gain impressions about a distant or unseen subject. The goal is to provide information about a person, event, location, or an object that is hidden from physical view. Some say that remote viewing involves entering a deep meditative state where the viewer's conscious mind is set aside and their subconscious takes over. In this state, the viewer may begin to see impressions of the target, such as images, sounds, feelings, or abstract symbols. Remote viewing can be taught and learned, but that motivation and latent ability also play a role. According to Colin A. Ross, MD, Project Bluebird is a deliberate creation of multiple personality and was created by psychiatrists. The Manchurian Candidate is compelling evidence for the reality of therapist-created multiple personality disorder. The condition has been created deliberately by mind control doctors. Experiments to create Manchurian Candidate super spies must be understood in their social and historical context, in which is one of pervasive, systematic mind control experimentation, not by a few isolated renegade doctors, but by the leaders of psychiatry and the major medical schools. Multiple personality disorder is now classified by the American Psychiatric Association as dissociative identity disorder. The Manchurian Candidate is an experimentally created dissociative identity disorder that meets the following 4 criteria. They are created deliberately, and a new identity is implanted. Amnesia barriers are created. Then the candidate is used in simulated or actual operations. Bluebird blows the whistle on extensive political abuse of psychiatry in North America in the second half of the 20th century. Many thousands of prisoners and mental patients were subjected to unethical mind control experiments. The mind control experiments were interwoven with radiation experiments and research on chemical and biological weapons. They were funded by the CIA, Army, Navy, Air Force, and by other agencies, including the Public Health Service and the Scottish Rite Foundation.
All of these gentlemen have testified in front of Congress under oath. Today we have Eric Hecker, who is a firefighter contractor for Raytheon, which is a military-industrial complex company. And he was in Antarctica at a Raytheon facility and says that Raytheon has the technology to produce earthquakes all throughout the planet.
It is responsible for the earthquakes in Christchurch, New Zealand in 2011 on the front end of the year. That there are technologies at the South Pole Station that people can't even consider that exist on this planet.
Like what?
Directed energy weapon systems is something that people need to get into their vocabulary fast. Have proven that it can transmit. It's the world's largest directed energy weapon system.
You were experimented on as a child and trained to be a remote viewer.
Voice-to-skull technology. This is also in the foray of directed energy weapons.
What is that?
The ability to, let's just say, throw your voice into your head or my voice into my head, or allowing algorithms that now they can blanket a whole geographical area and they can make everybody change their thoughts. They can, I use the term intrusive thoughts. Back to that fork in the road analogy. If you find yourself where you have to make a decision about something, next thing you know, you catch yourself kind of having an argument in your head with your own voices. Well, the ability to add another one of your voices in there, but have it controlled by somebody else's microphone, so to say, is a very powerful tool. And I think this is a weapon of war. The Department of Defense recently started initiating protocols for their employees, their agents, to discuss Havana syndrome-like symptoms. And on that list is that their agents are hearing voices in their head. that, next thing you know, you're trying to make a decision, but there's another Sean in your head that now is actually somebody else's control, and through the manipulation of that voice, they can now push you, just like we have, the cell phones are weaponized now, the social media platforms, and they can engage with an algorithm, and they know that they can push you in a direction by repetitive information being displayed in front of you, similar to the taquistoscope. And
According to Dr. Michael Lake, the Watchers who were bound have slowly been released since the turn of the 20th century, which explains the technological explosion. The Nazis received information from Hell's Kitchen, and from there it was distributed to the United States and other nations. Operation Paperclip was a secret United States intelligence program in which more than 1,600 German scientists, engineers, and technicians were taken from former Nazi Germany to the U.S. for government employment after the end of World War II. The work of the mind control doctors did not occur in a vacuum. The importation of Nazi doctors to the U.S. through secret programs like Paperclip is part of the context. And after the end of World War II, German scientists and technical experts were being held in detainment camps. The British, French, Americans, and Russians became embroiled in highly competitive recruiting efforts to secure the services of these German specialists. The prospect of losing the industrial and scientific services of these German experts led to the creation of Operation Paperclip. Over 1,000 German scientists were secretly brought into the U.S. without State Department approval. The most famous individual brought over in this manner was Wernher von Braun, the rocket scientist. Von Braun was the head of the German V-2K rocket program. The NASA rockets that took Neil Armstrong to the moon were built by von Braun and his colleagues. Medical doctors also came over under Paperclip. Josef Mengele, nicknamed Angel of Death, is one of the most infamous figures of the Holocaust. His service at Auschwitz and the medical experiments he conducted there have made him the most widely recognized perpetrator of the crimes committed at that camp. His post-war life in hiding has come to represent the international failure to bring the perpetrators of Nazi crimes to justice. Josef Mengele, the Nazi concentration camp doctor who performed grotesque experiments on his Jewish victims, spent about 2 months in U.S. custody after World War II ended, possibly under his real name. But U.S. Army officials released him from a prisoner of war camp without realizing he was the Angel of Death from Auschwitz. That's according to a new Justice Department report. Beginning in the 1940s and running into the 1970s, many people were injected with plutonium and exposed to other forms of radiation without their consent. 18 patients were injected with plutonium in an experiment run by the Manhattan Project. Army doctors were actively involved in LSD testing at least until the late 1970s. Artichoke operations involved detailed, systematic creation of specific amnesia barriers, new identities, and hypnotically implanted codes and triggers. Artichoke document dated 7 January 1953 describes the experimental creation of multiple personality in 2 19-year-old girls by the CIA. H is used as shorthand for hypnotic, hypnotized, or hypnotism. It has been clearly shown that individuals can be induced into an H state by telephone, by receiving written matter, or by the use of code, signal, or words. Jesus said it will be as the days of Noah when he returns. We must put on the whole armor of God, that we may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil, for we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, and against the rulers of darkness of this age. God bless everyone.
Hold my hand, don't let me fall. You've such a